Hi everyone, my name is Otilio Arellano and now I'm presenting the topic, but before I start, let me just introduce my partner, Ms. Erica Mendoza, who take part to this presentation as well. And in this video, I'm going to discuss about one of the third generation Filipino architects. We have architect Otilio Arellano was born in 1916 in Manila. In fact, he was the son of Otilio Arellano and Juan Arellano's nephew, who is also an architect as well. Now, let's talk about his life in terms of work. He was an architectural profession between the 1950s and 1960s, and he became one of the architects who represented the Filipinos at some international exhibitions. Needless to say, he was also chosen by the white Federal Americans to restore his uncle's work, which is the Metropolitan Theatre, and he became the inspiration of the Philippines. He was one of the first architects of the post-war century to look to the native icons of the Philippines for inspiration in his architectural designs. Now, moving on to his works, we have Palacio del Gobernador. It's a building inside Manila, of course, and once the site of the royal residence of the Governor Generals of the Philippines from 1645 to 1863, when the original building toppled during the 1863 earthquake, because the palace was struck down by the earthquake, as you know, and the plans to restore it were abandoned when another earthquake struck Manila in 1880. And it was originally conceived as a 12-story building designed by architect Otilio Arellano. Public disapproval watered it down to 8 floors, but still way beyond the 3 limit at the intramurals. The next thing we have is Philippine School of Business Administration. As you can see, the PSBA is a college that was established in 1963. It becomes a review centre for certified public accountants, the CPA, as the Public Accounting and Taxation Services Incorporated, which eventually became one of the notable CPA training centres in the country. By 1966, Parts was officially converted into a degree-granting institution called the Philippine School of Business Administration. And the next thing we have is the Philippine Pavilion in 1964. The Philippine Pavilion in New York World's Fair 1964 was designed by Otilio Arellano, shaped after a salakit. If you're wondering about what is salakit, salakit is a Filipino farm that had a range of related traditional headgear used by virtually all ethnic groups of the Philippines. Now, this is interesting because he took the account to his project to represent the idea of the Philippine traditional headgear in New York. So, a 2-story structure of pre-stressed laminated timber will present the history of the islands in the panel wood carvings. The circular building will contain replicas of the historic islands of Corregidor and will be set in a picturesque lagoon. So basically, the building is a circular pavilion. The used materials are the tapped with gold anodized aluminium roof. The main feature was the 12 huge panels of carves in fine acacia wood radiating at the centres of ground floor. So, and on the next slide, you will see some of his works that are actually quite known in the Philippines, such as the Gateway to the East, San Juan Municipal Cemetery, RCBC, located in Makati, and last is Sining Kayumangi. So, as you can see, Makati City is well known and visited by tons of people who come and visit the country of the Philippines. So this is where I'm going to end my presentation, and I hope you learned something about his life and works, and thank you for listening.